Hi, my name is Abdul Assel. I'm the owner of Beaverton Car Company. Now, I promised you that I would be showing you how the finance works in the car world. So here we go. Now, to start with, there's 3 ways you can purchase a car, and only 3. Number 1 is you can pay cash for the car. Number 2 is you can finance it with what we call traditional financing. Number 3 is leasing a car, and that usually only applies to new cars. So what I want to cover is just paying cash for the car and simply financing. Now, cash should not be complicated at all. This is how it should work. Number 1, let's say, for example, you're buying a $15,000 car. Now, that's going to be the price from the dealer. Now, some dealers will allow you to negotiate and some dealers will not. It just depends on what kind of dealer you're going to be doing business with. Most dealers are transitioning to the no haggle, no hassle price, because after thousands of surveys, most customers said the least favorite part of the deal is, having to go back and forth on the price of the vehicle. So my recommendation is this: if you don't like the price of the car that you see online, just look at another one. Just make sure that you're considering all the right options, meaning, you're evaluating the car based on its miles, equipment, and condition, and obviously the Carfax history. So most dealers are going to write $15,000 plus the fees, and the fees is just usually the big mystery, right? So most dealers have GPS or some anti-theft device in the vehicle, and this can range anywhere from as low as $299 to $995. Some dealers even charge more for that. So you might be surprised seeing, well, the car's only $15,000. Why is it $15,995 now? Well, again, if the dealer has installed options, but as long as the dealership discloses the additional options on the car on their website, then that's okay. You can make a decision if you want to do business with that dealer or not. Or maybe ask them, hey, are you guys willing to maybe not do it? So that should only be your possible additional fees. Then you're going to get your licensing and registration and taxes. So your licensing is basically what you're paying for the actual plates. Now, I can't necessarily speak for every state in the country, but I can tell you in Oregon, you're roughly looking at about $186, and that can change based on what county you live in. Your registration, and then your title. So license and registration is basically usually that number. Your title, again, it depends on the state. In Oregon, I think it's like $103. And then the last thing that's going to be is something called documentation fee. Most dealers call it doc fee. Now that is basically state regulated. So in Oregon, it's $150. I believe it's the same number in the state of Washington. So expect to see that number as a part of your fees. Is that part negotiable? 99.9% of the time, it is not. What is that money used for? For the owner to go on a really nice vacation on a very fancy yacht? No, that's not what it's for. What it is for is it does cover the admin and all the FedEx and all the mailing that happens and all the forms that the dealer has to pay for, and that's just what the documentation fee is. So when you add it all up, the numbers should make sense. Now, if you have sales tax, then basically the sales tax is going to get calculated off of this amount and any additional products that you buy from the dealer, like maybe an extended service contract or a maintenance package or some accessories you wanted to add on. So your sales tax is going to get calculated based on your county. So for example, in Clark County, Vancouver, Washington, it's 8.7%. Now, that's for right now. That might change, but as of right now, that's what it is. So 8.7%. Any dealer is more than happy to, I would assume they are, to give you a detailed breakdown as far as what that is. Now, this is just simply, we're talking about cash option, right? Now, let's say you're financing. Well, at the end of the day, the final number of this, and let's just for the sake of the conversation, let's say is going to be $16,494. I just added some random number up, but let's just say that is with the number with all your fees and additional products. So if that is the number, then we're going to move on and talk about how financing works. Now remember, the number we ended up with was $16,494. 494. Now, realistically speaking, what should my payment be? Well, there's too many factors, okay? Here are the factors that are going to affect what your payment is going to be. Number one is going to be your credit score. Okay? Your credit score can be as low as under 500, and it could be as high as 800 plus. Well, what does that mean to you? For most banks, if your credit score is over 740 plus, anything above 740 is bragging rights, okay? Now, there is basically 5 to 6 tiers within any bank. And those tiers kind of go from like 520 and below, and then 590 and up. Then it can go to 620, and then can go to 660, go to 700. So as you can see, depends on the bank. Your credit score does make a difference on what interest rate you're going to qualify for. Now, if you want to take the guesswork out of it, it's really simple. You can go to the dealer website, you can go to my website, beavertoncarcompany.com, and just simply apply for credit. And we will be able to get you exactly the interest rate that you qualify for. But there's a caveat. The age of the vehicle you're selecting might change the interest rate. Not by a ton, but let's say you can go to a credit union and credit union says, oh yeah, our rates are as low as 4.49. And then you go to the car dealer and say, well, I want that car for 4.49 because that's what my credit union said. Well, your credit union kind of gave you a best case scenario. So this is assuming that you're buying a 2023 brand new car at 48 months, and your credit score is the best it is. And let's assume that since they pre-qualified you, they already know what interest rate you qualify for. Well, here's what happens. You end up going to the dealer and you're selecting, let's say, a 2016 with 120,000 miles on it. Now, that interest rate, let's say for the sake of the conversation, was 5.99. That number no longer exists, even with your own bank. Because the age of the vehicle will usually change the interest rate by roughly about 1 point. So for a starter, that might go to 699. And a car has over 100,000 miles on it. Well, that also might change the interest rate by another half a point. So now you're really looking at 7.49. So your initial thought process is somebody's trying to screw me. That is not the case. It's just simply the age of the miles changes the bank's risk in the car, and that's why your interest rate is slightly higher. You're not going to get screwed on an interest rate, especially if you're going through a credit union, okay? Because it's published, it's there, and the dealer should be able to show you the rate sheet, what your credit score is, and what rate you qualify for. So that should not be an issue for anybody. Now that we've agreed that the age of the vehicle will affect what the interest rate is, and we also agreed that the credit score that you have will also affect the interest rate. These are really the two main things that will change. Now, once we get that piece resolved, the next thing that's going to come into play is the term. How long are you going to finance that car for? Are you going to finance it for 48 months? Well, that might not yield a payment that you're happy with. Are you going to go to 66 months? Are you going to go to 84 months? Obviously, the dealer will change the term based on your request for the payment. But for just the sake of the conversation, what should be a $16,500 car, including your fees, come out to in terms of payment with, let's assume, 0 down? So you're buying a car, including your fees, for $16,500, and you're putting no money down, and let's just assume that your credit score is 680. And let's say that the corresponding interest rate for that 680 is 6%. So realistically speaking, your payment on that car for that term at 60 months should be right around $320 per month. Now, you tell the dealer, well, this is a little bit outside of my budget. Well, what is the dealer going to do? Well, they have two options. Number one, change the price, which is something they probably don't want to do, especially if the car is priced fair. Or option number two is they're going to extend the term. So once you start going to 72 months, you're probably going to fall just a tad under 300. So it's probably going to be something closer to like 298, something in that neighborhood. Or you might change the scenario by adding more money down. So for every $1,000 you put down, it usually translates about $20 less in your car payment. So let's say you're happy with the interest rate at 6%, you're happy with the 60-month term, but your budget that you have in your mind is, I don't want to have a car payment over $300. Well, another solution if the dealer is not willing to negotiate, and like I said, most are not, then is to put $1,000 down. You put $1,000 down, you're under your $300. Let's say your budget is $250. How much money down would you need to put? Well, like I said, it's roughly $20 for $1,000. So if I want to be at $250, that's $3,000 down, put me at $260. So you basically need $3,500 down to get to $250. So that's at 60 months. So that's just kind of the simple math of it. So obviously there's a ton of tools online. So you can, calculate your payment with an estimated APR on the website, on my website or somebody else's website. Most third-party like Auto Trader, Car Guru, Carfax, they're offering you a payment calculator, and you can figure out what your payment is going to be based on those metrics. So that's ultimately how it works. So basically you have how much cash you're putting down, that's a factor, what your credit score is, and the age of the vehicle, and what term are you planning on taking that car. So if you want a $200 payment with zero down, how much of a car should you be looking at? Most likely around the $10,000 price range. $20,000 car is going to be just a tad under 400 on a longer term than 60 months. And I'm going to add to this video basically kind of a slideshow that adds the different payments, giving you examples of, okay, well, this is a $20,000 car with $1,000 down at that interest rate, and these what the payments would look like. So it looks like a payment schedule, if you will. I hope that kind of clarifies it a little bit.